There is a book sitting in a library at Yale University that has been in human hands for over 600 years. It is filled with writing, hundreds of pages of it. There are illustrations, plants, astronomical charts, diagrams of the stars, drawings of women bathing in strange pools connected by tubes, jars of what might be medicine, zodiac symbols. Someone wrote this book. Someone spent an enormous amount of time and effort creating it. And in 600 years of trying, no human being has ever been able to read a single word of it. Not for lack of effort. Professional codebreakers who cracked enemy communications during the First and Second World Wars studied it and gave up. Linguists, cryptographers, computer scientists, and artificial intelligence systems have all attempted to decode it. The manuscript has been analyzed, scanned, digitized, and made available to the entire world. Anyone can look at every page online right now. And still, nothing. We do not know what language it is written in. We do not know what alphabet it uses. We do not know who created it, or why, or what it says. This is the Voynich Manuscript. The physical object is straightforward enough. It is a handwritten book, approximately 240 pages long, written on vellum, treated animal skin, that has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, somewhere between 1404 and 1438. The pages are in reasonable condition. The ink is clear. The illustrations are detailed and colorful. The writing itself is consistent. It reads left to right, like English. It is divided into words with clear spaces. The words have patterns. Certain characters appear frequently, others rarely. The statistical structure of Voyniches, as researchers call it, looks like a real language. There are things that behave like prefixes and suffixes. Word lengths cluster in ways you would expect from actual speech. It is not random. It has structure. And yet it corresponds to nothing known. The alphabet has somewhere between 20 and 30 distinct characters. None of them match any known writing system. Not Latin, not Arabic, not Hebrew, not Greek, not any cipher alphabet on record. The letters are not decorative or artistic variations of something familiar. They are simply unknown. The illustrations are their own mystery. The botanical section shows plants, dozens of them, drawn in detail, with roots and stems and leaves and flowers. And almost none of them match any real plant that has ever been identified. The roots are wrong for the leaves. The flowers belong to the wrong genus. Some appear to be composites, parts of several different real plants assembled into something that doesn't exist in nature. Whether this represents imagination, symbolism, or something else entirely, no one knows. The astronomical section shows diagrams of circular charts with stars and symbols. Some resemble zodiac illustrations from the medieval period. Some do not resemble anything known. There are fold-out pages. The book has pages that unfold to reveal larger diagrams, showing what might be cosmological maps, or something else. We don't know. The section researchers call the biological section shows women. Small human figures, always female, bathing in interconnected pools and tubes. The tubes connect the pools in ways that suggest flow or circulation. Is this medicine? Alchemy? Cosmology? A creation myth? Nobody can say. How the manuscript survived to reach us is itself a remarkable story. The earliest confirmed owner whose name we know is the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II, who ruled from Prague in the late 16th and early 17th century. Rudolf was one of the great collector emperors of European history. He filled his court with artists, alchemists, astronomers, and magicians. He was obsessed with the mysterious and the arcane. And according to documents that survive, he paid 600 gold ducats for the Voynich Manuscript. 600 gold ducats. That was an enormous sum, enough to fund a small military campaign. Rudolf did not pay that for a worthless book. He believed it contained something valuable. What he thought it contained, we don't know, because he apparently could not read it either. After Rudolf's court dissolved, the manuscript passed through several hands. A Prague alchemist named Georg Baresch had it for years. He wrote letters to Athanasius Kircher, a famous Jesuit scholar who was one of the most learned men of the 17th century and the closest thing his era had to a universal expert, begging Kircher to help him decode it. Kircher apparently could not, but those letters still exist, and they are one of our few pieces of documentation about the manuscript's history. The book eventually ended up in the library of the Jesuit Collegium Romanum in Rome, where it sat for centuries. In 1912, a Polish-American book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich Yes, the manuscript is named after the man who bought it, not the man who made it. Purchased it from a Jesuit college near Rome. He spent the rest of his life trying to understand what he had bought. He failed. The manuscript passed through a few more owners and eventually reached Yale University in 1969, where it has lived ever since in a climate-controlled case, read by nobody. The code-breaking failures are particularly striking given who attempted it. William Friedman was perhaps the greatest American cryptographer of the 20th century. He helped break the Japanese Purple E cipher during the Second World War, one of the most complex encryption systems ever created. He spent years working on the Voynich Manuscript and ultimately concluded he could not crack it. He organized a team of professional codebreakers to work on it together. They also failed. The problem is that without knowing what language underlies a cipher, breaking the cipher is nearly impossible. If someone scrambles an English text, you can use letter frequency and known English word patterns to recover it. But if you don't know the underlying language, you have almost nothing to work with. And the Voynich Manuscript doesn't seem to be a scrambled version of any known language that anyone has tried. Over the centuries, many scholars have announced breakthroughs. In 2018, an AI analysis claimed the underlying language was Hebrew, rendered in a specific encoding. The academic community was skeptical, and attempts to apply the theory to actual pages did not produce meaningful Hebrew text. In 2019, a researcher at the University of Bristol claimed to have identified Proto-Romance language patterns. Again, the academic community was largely unconvinced. These announcements follow a familiar pattern. Someone finds a framework that seems to fit some of the text. Press releases go out. Headlines say the mystery is solved. Then other researchers examine the claim and it falls apart. The framework explains some features but not others, or the proposed translation produces nonsense. The mystery remains. There are serious theories and there are fringe theories. On the serious side, it may be a genuinely unknown natural language written in an invented script, perhaps the private language of a small community or individual. It may be a constructed or philosophical language. There were medieval and Renaissance scholars interested in creating perfect artificial languages, and the manuscript might represent such an attempt. It may be a very sophisticated cipher of a known language, using a method whose key has simply not survived. On the less serious side, it has been proposed as everything from an alien communication to a forgery created by Wilfred Voynich himself to sell to gullible collectors. The forgery theory in particular fails against the carbon dating. The vellum dates to the early 1400s, and Voynich wasn't born until 1865. You can potentially fake writing on old vellum, but the statistical complexity of Voynich's makes it an implausible fraud. The most unsettling possibility is the hoax theory, that someone in the 15th century created a book of carefully structured but meaningless writing designed to look like a real encoded text in order to sell it. If this is true, they succeeded beyond any reasonable expectation. They fooled a Holy Roman Emperor into paying 600 gold ducats. They have been fooling cryptographers for 6 centuries, and they will never be caught. But most researchers who study the manuscript believe it is real. The structure is too consistent, too internally logical, to be pure invention maintained across 240 pages without a break or an error. Something is there. We just can't find the door. Here is where things stand today. The manuscript is fully digitized. Every page is freely available online. The academic community studying it is global and active. New computational tools are being applied every few years. The book is not going anywhere. And 6 centuries after it was written, by someone, somewhere, for some purpose, we still cannot read it. There is a letter inside the book, not in Voynich's, in Latin, written to Athanasius Kircher in the 17th century, describing the manuscript and asking for help. The letter is readable. The letter says, essentially, I have had this book for years. I have tried everything I can think of. I cannot make sense of it. Can you help? Kircher, as far as we know, could not. Neither can we.